How great would it be to get up close and personal with the beauty industry heroes we love and admire, and to ask them, how did you learn to do what you do? I'm Chris Baran, a hairstylist and educator for 40 plus years, and I'm inviting all our heroes to chat and share the secrets of their success. Well, welcome to another episode of Headcases. Now, just before I tell you who this amazing guest is, but I want to ask you this quick question. Have you ever guided someone along who had an issue or a problem, etc., or you've helped someone to find the answer to something that was going on, a problem in their life or whatever? Well, I hate to tell you this, but whether it's your first day in the salon or you're the 30-year salon veteran owner, you're a leader. So that's the very reason why you should listen up to this podcast. Now, I am so thrilled to chat with today's guest. As a matter of fact, we had so much fun and created so much content that this is just part one. Now, she is a truth teller to the salon world. She has countless hours becoming the leader, mentor, keynote speaker, and author that she is today. She's the co-host of Next Level Salon Podcast. She owns 3 schools and 3 salons. Now, believe me, that takes some leadership skills. She doesn't hire employees. She makes it her mission to hire future partners. She is a certified DISC personality trainer and consultant, and an executive director, certified trainer, and coach with the John Maxwell Team. Yes, I said John Maxwell Team, one of the leading authorities in leadership. She's conducted nationwide value-based transformational leadership initiatives with Maxwell at the invitation of, catch this, the governments in Guatemala and Costa Rica, where they trained more than 25,000 leaders in all sectors of leadership. And what I love the most about her is she leads everything with her first value, love. So let's get into this week's Headcase, Tina Black. Tina, it is such a pleasure to talk to you again. And I have to say, just from the bottom of my heart, as we've talked before, but I have to say, it is a pleasure, absolute pleasure to have you on Headcases.
Thank you, Chris. And the feeling's mutual, actually, to be on the other side, because I'm usually the one interviewing you. So thank you for being on our Next Level podcast as well in the past. So we always enjoy it. We always get a lot of giggles. At least I'm giggling pretty much the whole time you're speaking. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I have to tell for everybody watching and listening right now that I had a little bit of, I told her my brain fart that happened to me when, and she interviewed me, what was it, last year? Or yeah. I think it was last year. And I got the name. As podcasters, we always want to say, look at, okay, who are good people to interview? Who can we have fun with? And a good friend of mine and yours, Wynn, gave me the names of 2 people, one of which was yours, and said, you have to interview these people because they are unbelievable. And I went, awesome. And I went, Tina Black. And I went through this whole process of going, Tina Black, I should know that name. Why is the image? And so for the people that are watching right now, you'll notice with all this gray hair, gray beard, and gray matter that must be building up around my brain and keeping my neurons from snapping all the time, until I saw your face and saw that amazing sign that you have behind that says Next Level Salon Leadership. And I went, podcast, there it was. So, I mean, you intrigued me as a podcaster when we did that interview, just because you've got such a great flow, and the way that you have a great way to bring out the conversation. And I invite everybody to go and listen to your podcast and Next Salon Level Leadership. Yes. And it was Next Level Salon Management. Yes. And leadership, you can see from in here. I invite you guys to go. It's an amazing podcast.
Thank you.
So I just want to say from that is, as when I dug deep is when I went, that word right behind you that says leadership, I didn't know that skill was so predominant in you. And it wasn't when I talked to Wynn and talked to other people about it, I just went, oh my God. So I want to talk about that, but I think that for people who don't know you, and I don't know how they would not, for they don't know you, that I can you give us just like a quick hair story of how you got into the hair business and how it was that, like, what shifted in you to get you into this leadership level?
Oh, well, the quick story of it is my husband kind of coerced me into this industry, and he did it. He got me to leave dentistry. And I remember the moment, the words he used. He knew the words that he had to use for me. We're now married almost 40 years, but this was 20 years ago. And he said, "Hey, I think I'm going to buy a cosmetology school because I think it could be a ministry for you." And so as soon as he said it, I'm like, that's it. I want a ministry. This is my ministry. So I call it now my ministry, business/ministry. But little did I know, I had very little business sense when I went into this. And thank God, partnering with Win a few years later after that. And so he taught me so much about business and leadership, as well as
Mhm.
John Paul DeJoria. So I was so blessed. And then tried out the salon business for a minute and failed miserably, so bad that I swore I would never get back into it. I was full of a lot of excuses. And then Vivian McKinder inspired me. She was one of our speakers in one of our schools, and she became one of the founding members of the John Maxwell Leadership Certified Team. And so I was very intrigued, checked into it. 2013, became a John Maxwell coach myself, and been like all in. I mean, going twice a year, really involved with this, thank God, which opened up the door to me to get back into the beauty salon business. And so now I own several schools, several salons, and then actually thought I better start a coaching company because I got to help people to not make the same mistakes. So I actually have two coaching companies. So Next Level Salon Leadership, and then I have another one called Empowered Salon Leadership, which is through two other John Maxwell coaches. We teamed up during COVID and just started giving back to the industry.
Yeah. First of all, just in what you just said there is the chance that happens with people of just meeting of minds. Like you said, you teamed up with another John Maxwell, who is, in my mind, one of the most foremost people on talking on leadership. And you have to remind me later to tell you a story about one of my teachers that interviewed John, and one of the powerful things that he said to him.
Wow.
But I'm just going to write down that right now, okay, just so I get it. Is that you said you partnered up with someone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's so many times when you can see something that there's a hook or a link. And I'm going to even just like, for anybody who's married or has a partnership, that you connect with somebody immediately and you just say, good, this is the person for me. And tell me a little bit more about that. Like, what was the hook that when you met this person that you went, okay, I know that I could coach with this person. I could make it a business and not hate the person at the end.
That's amazing. I actually have fulfilled my entire journey by having partnerships. And I really learned that from the partnership that I have with Win Claybaugh and John Paul DeJoria. They really taught us the importance of partnerships. And, John Maxwell has said this for years. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go with others. And so that I knew right away, as soon as I joined the John Maxwell team, because they immediately started saying, look for partnerships. And plus, I don't want to do life alone either.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to have like a solopreneur business. I wanted to have something that I could scale. And I knew the only way to do that would be link up with people who have better skill sets than I do. So my Next Level Salon Leadership, I knew right away, my COO and now business partner in our salons and schools, Sean Chido, I knew right away he had to be my partner because he can handle a lot of the number side of the salon business. And then I handle the leadership, all the fluff stuff, if you will, in the salon business. So we're great coaches together when it comes to coaching salons, and we love doing that. And then our other coaching business, I knew right away. I mean, we connected on a sort of level of we all three had like the same value system, and we all knew that we're like aligned in those values. And so we said, let's go ahead and link up. Let's start sharing our information. And I tell you what, it's so true. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And when I'm with these two, Nuala Gilday and Christine Zielinski, I'm definitely in the right room because those two women are so brilliant. I learned so much from them. And so every time we're together and teaching at hair shows or doing masterminds, I'm taking more notes, right? Every time they open their mouth.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I remember one of the VPs at the company that I work for and still do. I remember, and I know you know Sam Villa, and know you've interviewed him. I know that everybody loves Sam, and Sam and I are really super good friends. And we also, because we both teach design, we both work for the same manufacturer. And when we were coming up with our systems in here, we would butt heads on stuff. And so I remember going to this VP, and we were naturally sitting at a bar at, God, I'm trying to remember. And I was going to try and give a plug to the name of the bar, and I can't remember anymore. New York, gray matter. And and I remember we had this conversation with her over a pint, and we said, listen, we know that this is the right way to go, but we don't always agree. And what would you tell? Well, here's what the things we're doing about. And the first thing that she said to us was, listen, if you guys would agree on everything, one of you is not necessary.
Yeah.
And so that's the whole point. And that was, I think, for both of us, one of the key moments in our development, et cetera. Yeah. And so another key player in our life was just right here. My son, Lee, who was producing this whole thing, he went, Frankie and Johnny's. And I went, yes. So it was at Frankie and Johnny's in New York, and over a pint, and we had that conversation. So, excuse me. So I love that, and I love how you partner with people. And I think for people listening, what would like you're saying? Okay, your adventure might sound so much bigger. Not that it's better, not that it's greater, but bigger, because you've got schools and you have salons and you have coaching business and so on. But what would you say to that? How would you choose to have somebody have partners? And because I think in our business, that's the hardest thing for people to do. I see so many salons where they got the one person as the owner and they don't have a partner, and they're constantly struggling, and they're doing everything, and the expense that they have is at their family and their business and so on, because they're trying to do everything.
Yeah.
Number one, I'm going to give you a two-parter here. Number one, should they have a business partner? And number two, what do you do to make sure that partnership lasts and you don't end up hating one another?
I'm actually coaching a salon partnership, which are in the realm of the potentially hating one another. And I'm so glad that they hired me, because now I can be kind of like that mediator to help them understand each other's personality styles, because they're two total different personality styles.
Which is good.
Yes, you want that.
Yeah.
Big time. And so me helping them understand one another and how to communicate better with that personality style. So I learned that as a DISC personality coach and emotional intelligence coach as well. And so helping them, through that process. But people, when they usually hire me to coach them, Chris, it is to help them to develop partnerships, because that's what I've done. They've watched me over the years. Tina, have you done this? My first partner, of course, was Wynn and John Paul. And then my daughter was 6 years old when we first got into the business. She became my second partner years later at 18 years old, by the way.
Wow.
We partnered in a salon together. And so it's just pretty amazing how we've been able to, really grow this thing. And then we started, and Wynn said something so big to us many, many years ago. He said, I want to work with who I want to work with, and I don't want to work with who I don't want to work with. Yeah. It has to be someone I want to work with. Right. And so, in fact, he even said it would be someone that you would want to invite on a vacation with you. And so as we've carefully selected people to be a part of our salon businesses, we've also said, okay, we don't hire just future employees, we hire future partners. So I'm looking at people that I would want to go on vacation with. and spend time with. And so literally that's what we've done. And so now we have 4 salon partners. And I can tell you, Chris, there's no way my daughter and I could own 4 or more salons if we didn't have partners. And so, and I'm so glad we do, because we're thinking so much bigger and have so much more capability because of the scaling that we're doing in our businesses. And so I really honestly believe you cannot do, but you should not do, you can do business alone, but you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Life's too short. Let's just have a little fun.
No, it's true.
Right?
Yeah. And so if a person listening to us right now, whether they're looking at going into business on their own or whether they're already in a commission business and they're looking at all the work that they have to do, do you suggest, I've heard people say that if you're, I'm going to take you back. I love to use this word because it's so stupid. And I'm going to hearken back to something that was said to me. And this was said to me by a great person that I really admired, and still do, like 100 years ago, when I had my salons in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and we always said, if you can't spell Saskatchewan, then you're not from it.
Right.
But his name was Kent Gould, and he was part of the distribution company, and I asked him about his partners, because they started doing from province to province, for anybody else that states in Canada, is that he had started going province to province and opening up more distribution companies. And I was very intrigued in that. And I asked him one day, I said, Kent, I called him that because that's what his name was. And I said, Kent, what is it that how do you make sure that you have a partner that you can trust and you can do, especially when you're not around all the time? And he said, well, we put together partnership agreements. And in that partnership, and pardon me if I'm going to say, I'll try to calm it down from what he said. But he said, I said, well, how does that help you? And he said, he says, when we have our initial meeting, we put a partnership together and we talk about everything. It's like, even, he said, I'm going to try to calm this one down. Even if one of us has to go and have a poop, when and how is that going to happen? And I said, well, that's amazing. I said, why do you do all that? And he says, because those are all the problems that could come up, not poop, I'm sure. Right. But when he got so detailed in it, that you've covered everything so that you know and trust everybody in it. First of all, so my questions to you do you believe in partnership agreements? Is that something that worked in their case, but you wouldn't recommend, or you do? And give us a little bit behind that.
Yeah, I actually learned that partnership agreement idea from Wynn and John Paul, because they did that with us. But we are a franchise in our Paul Mitchell schools. Oh, yeah. In our salons, we were like, let's not start a franchise until possibly we could start it after 10 salons. But right now we're just doing partnerships. Right. And so, yes, we have a partnership agreement. My husband and I are majority owners. And so when we bring on our partners, everything's spelled out. In fact, it's 10 years in now in the salon business. And just this year, we changed up our partnership agreements. And we always say, our systems are a list of all of our screw ups. And we realized, that way of doing things it worked okay, but in order to grow for the next 10 years, we need to shift to this. Yeah. And so we actually brought on our lawyer to have those conversations with our partners, because we know that can be a real touchy situation, of course, in a friendship. And so we wanted them to be able to feel safe. And my ultimate goal, Chris, is that my partner feels like they're getting the better end of the deal. That's just how I do business. And if they didn't feel like they were getting the better end of the deal, then we go back to the drawing board and make sure. And I told my lawyer, I said, you make sure that they feel like they're getting the better end of the deal, because I want to serve them. Yeah. I know in order for us to grow, it has to be me serving them and not the other way around.
Yeah, and I can't remember I only remember the gentleman's first name. He was I think he was part of the Secret Service or something, and he ended up being a head negotiator, Chris. That's why I remembered his name, but I don't remember the last name now. But he wrote a book, and it was just all based on negotiation. And he said that everybody's got to win. And if you just go in and there's no leeway where somebody can win something, then it's
Right.
a really bad deal. So I
It
love
is.
what you said that you want them to feel like they're getting the better end of the deal. It doesn't mean that you're hurting because of it,
Right.
but you
Right.
got to always allow
Sure.
somebody to get something out of the negotiation. So in
Exactly.
that, and I love that part that you were saying in there, and I love that you talk about partnership agreements because that's something we really believe in as well. Is that if you're not willing to put that stuff down, if you're not willing to get the partnership agreement down, then it just doesn't work. Because somebody, if you don't have it written down, somebody's going to end up misinterpreting. Well,
Yeah.
they can just say, "Well, that's not the way I understood it." And
Yeah.
I can remember
Yeah.
as you met my son Lee and our team that we were going to start with a friend of ours out of Italy, and we were going to start a software company together, and and all of a sudden we just I remember they said, listen, we might not have the funding that we could put in for this right now, and we said, listen, well then don't worry about it, we'll put in the remainder of the money,
Mhm.
and you can just pay us back when you've got the funds. It went south from there,
Yeah.
and dramatically south, because this person was a friend of mine as well, and they were saying, they were accusing us of trying to scam them. And it wasn't until we had a meeting with my coach and Jason Everett just said, "Look, you've got to find out. You've got to define what they mean in both of your agreements." So when we said 50%, what does that mean? When you say that you're paying for it, what does that mean? So we went back in and we first of all set the stage for, look, we know that we're all on the same path, but there's a thing that we have to do. We got a wrinkle in here somewhere. So we need to define what all of this is. So as soon as we defined it, we said, well, what's your definition of this? So we said, well, we're upset because if you put in more money with Italian law, that means that you retain more,
Yeah.
that you get more shares.
Right.
And we said, look, this is a U.S. company, and it doesn't matter how much money each party puts in. It's in the agreement what you say is 50-50. And they went, oh. So it was all over the lack of a definition. And
Yeah.
that's why I think that these are so critical,
Mm.
that if you have an agreement, it's got to be, you have to define what each one of this, and why sometimes I
Yeah.
hate the legalese that I can't understand in there. But if that spells it out and you meet with your lawyers as you should, then that
Yeah.
was sets you up for success. And it's not doing that. And I know you do
So
something
good.
simple, and we call it a different name. And we just had one of these with our team and we set up a brand new code of honor with our business team,
Love
which,
that.
yeah, and I'm sure, I know you guys have it. I know you
Yeah.
do it because I've heard you talk on it. But I
Mhm.
think you call it a little different name. But if you have to have and you said it earlier, your values, you have to establish that your values are the same. And then
Yeah.
if you can set up with your code of how you're going to interact with honor and solve the problems that you're going to have ahead of time. Like when you do these, what do you find in helping to set up their values and help the people with setting up a proper code so you can get along? How's that work when you do it?
Yeah, that's so good. I love that. And, for me, it's obviously not necessarily all written on paper, right?
Got
It's
it.
a gut feeling too. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
when Wynn said, and it stuck with me forever, is obey your instincts. And I
Mm.
remember the exact instance that he said it. And I remember writing it down on a piece of paper. And the minute that I don't obey my instincts is the minute that later years I'll be like, you know what? I knew the
Mm-hmm.
red flags were up when I actually brought them on as a partner or even a team member or a staff member, but I was desperate in the moment and I went forward and I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. Like, when was that moment in time? Right. And I can tell you this, so I have set value system in our company. It's love, impact, generosity, humility, teamwork, and self-aware. And that really got downloaded to me one night. I'll never forget it, even the definitions. And so we actually spell it out with our teams. And so as we grow with some of our stylists and we see which ones actually really have those values, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
really have those
Yes.
values. And I'll tell you, the number one is love. And
Mm.
for me, if you don't believe in people and love people, because Chris, we know there's salon owners out there and salon leaders that really don't love people and don't
Right.
believe in people. And if they don't, they're not going to work as my partner.
Yeah.
They won't work as my partner because I know they're not going to love themselves. They're not going to love me. They're not going to love anybody. And you know what? It just isn't going to work in our company.
I bet we have something in common. I have this love-hate relationship. I hate paying for something that I'm not using. I hate working in a small, cramped box. Yet, I love working in a cool salon that impresses my clients, and I love the culture and synergy of a team while enjoying the freedom of being my own boss. You too? What if all that was available to you at the salon you rent from? Meet Artist on Go, a game-changing way to rent salon space. With Artist on Go, you only pay for the time you're behind the chair. You can choose a salon that fits your vibe, location, and amenities. With Artist on Go, you're a part of a stylist community, not hustling alone. Plus, you get to enjoy perks like clean towels and back bar supplies. Check out Artist on Go, built for stylists serious about their clients and growing their brand without the hassles of managing a space. Here's the kicker. You can save more than 50% on your rent. To find out more, go to bit.ly/artistongocb. That's bit.ly/artistongocb. And I'm going to hit, it's like, I tell you what, it's like you're, for those people watching, listening, I always tell the people that I'm interviewing, I don't give them the questions because I think then it's a pat answer. And I have all these questions and I swear you're looking over my shoulder and reading the next question that I'm about to ask. So, first of all, thank you so much for the segue. But I know, and you and I travel the world and talk to people, salons everywhere, and you see their culture, you see what's going on in their business. And when I look back to when I first started my business, was I an influence? I wasn't an influencer because I'm talking back even up into the 70s here. I started when I was 3. But I was an influence on them and they wanted to work for me because I was an influence on them. But I'll tell you, I sure as hell wasn't a leader.
Yeah.
I wasn't a leader at that time because I didn't think I had no experience, didn't know what it was. I just wanted to hang my shingle up in front of the door and it was my business and my name out there. And you start to get an ego, et cetera.
Right.
And I think that affected your effectiveness as a leader when you think that way. So, but I want to, what you see, and you talk more on this, on leadership and see what I do than I do. And what's your take on today's salon owner leadership and how they lead their team? It's just, tell me what you see, what's out there, and if that has wrinkles and dimples on it, then let's talk about that.
Yeah, a lot of wrinkles for sure. And, it's interesting. Before I answer that question, I just thought of something because my daughter was doing a hiring event in our salon a few weeks ago. And one of the clients walked in a little early and we had, all these stylists, future stylists in our salon, maybe like 10 of them. And so she walks in, she's like, "Hey, what's going on here?" And we're like, "Yeah, we're just doing a hiring event." And she has this little dog, this client, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you have to work with this company. They live to all their values. You see their values right here on the wall: love, impact, gender." Like literally, I have chills, and I'm just, oh my gosh, it was as if we prepared this woman. And bottom line is this: is if you want to know what your culture is, ask your clients, right? Yeah. That's how we started to build our culture, because you have a culture, you just don't really, know what it is, but ask your clients. They'll tell you, like really, really listen to them. Yeah. And so I preface that in the beginning of this question because it's critical that you live and breathe your culture and understand what it is. And it's okay if it shifted. And so what's happened on these salons that we've coached, Chris, over the years, they want to grow, they want to scale, but they don't have anything in writing of their culture that they could hold people accountable to or to hire That's part of the challenge. And so they've hired all the wrong people, and because they didn't know what their values are. So
Right.
now, like, okay, that's okay. Let's just backtrack a little bit. Let's start putting it in writing, like what, and so asking them really deep questions, kind of what we're doing right now, asking those deep questions. What do you really want?
Yeah.
And so working through that process, and it is a process.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen overnight. And so working through that, okay, so now let's draw out your ideal team player. Who do you really, really want? What's your number one value that it has to be they have to be non-negotiables.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you going to allow into your space? Because it really is, it's that allowance. And so I think that's the challenge that I'm seeing, and not knowing how to hold people accountable because they don't know how to have those hard conversations, right? Because their personality style more so than anything. Most of them are people pleasers. They don't want to offend, but really it's like me. I didn't have the dialogue. I didn't have the verbiage. I didn't know how to approach someone in love and hold them accountable to things, right? So I was that authoritative leader of like, it's my way or the highway. If you don't like it, hit the door. So guess what they did? They hit the door. I had a full walkout.
Yeah.
That was
Hi, my name is Chris. My name is Chris, and I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
You know,
it was really my insecurity because only learn how to be a secure leader, Chris. And it's taken a lot.
And I think that if we could, I would say if I could snap my fingers and give our industry one thing, to me it would be is to have people that, whether you're just looking at starting a business or whether you're you've been in business for a long time, or just to understand that you're the leader. You're not supposed to be the best one.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be the shining star. Like me, it was Chris Baran above that wasn't the name of the salon, but let's just say it was Chris Baran on the shingle above the door, which meant at that time, from an ego base, look, it's my salon, it's my business, it's the way I run things, and it's the way people are coming to see me, and by the time and I had salon walkouts as well. And when I went to sell it, at the end, because of a move, I had nothing to really sell because it wasn't worth it, because it was all built on me and I was leaving, rather than built on the value of the business and what the salon contributes and the business model that it is. So, and I see that, I see myself, the reflection of myself in these owners when they're doing the same thing that I did.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm always attracting the people that I used to be.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because you fixed it.
Yes, because I fixed it. Exactly. It's called the law of the lid. John Maxwell calls it that.
Yep.
People are attracted to you, right?
But tell them about what the law of the lid, to give them a little bit about that, because it's brilliant and I love this.
Yeah, it's your capacity to lead, because the people, like if you're, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, you'd kind of grade yourself, so to speak, of your leadership capability. So if you're a 6 or a 7, you're only going to attract 4s or 5s.
Yes.
And so, because no one that's a better leader than you is going to work for you, right? They're going to work for someone else that's a better leader. And so sometimes I'm so saddened, Chris, when people leave me. But then if I really look in the mirror and I think, oh, it's because they're a way better leader than I am. They outgrew me. And so I need to let them go, but also realize what I call the law of the mirror, of looking in the mirror. Okay, what do you need to grow? I need to grow myself. Like the hardest person to grow is you, right? The highest form of leadership is leading ourselves. So going back to the drawing board and just really honing in and saying, okay, what do I need to work on? Character, maybe charisma, maybe more of my responsibility, my follow through, all the little character traits that we don't want to look at to really grow ourselves. And that's really all you have to do. You can hit the easy button, but it's the hard button too at the same time. It's tough stuff. Like you don't hear it,
Oh, true. I mean, I think that any salon owner, any person that's been a part of a walkout knows, when that happens, you just want to go home that night and
No.
curl up in your bed and get your wubby around you, put your thumb in your mouth and, go into fetal position, and I just think because that's what happens. But
Yep.
the reality is it's happened to me. But when you can walk away, if you can have the courage to look at yourself or look at what went wrong,
Yeah.
or what did I just respond in anger to something and
Yep.
quite frankly just piss people
Yep.
off,
Yep.
and it was me, not them.
Yep.
And if you can have the courage to do that, that's where the growth happens.
Yeah.
It hurts, but you're
Yeah.
better. And sometimes the business is even better after that.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have to like really look within, and so I would say that's the hardest part. And I do want to backtrack just for a second, because one of the things I've noticed over the years, Chris, is the philosophy of grow or go. So my partners, what I really look for is a growth mentality. Like, have they been growing within the salon over the years? And if they're not, then I really can't make them my partner. And
Yeah.
so are they invested in their own growth? Are they reading books? Are they listening to podcasts? Are they bringing things to me to lead me as a leader?
Mhm.
You were so right when you were saying you don't want a bunch of yes people around you. You've got to have people around you that are going to challenge you too. Those are the ones I want to bring as a partner. But of course, at the same time, I want to make sure that they're not a jerk either.
Yeah. 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 No,
So,
I
yeah.
love it. And I
Yeah.
love what I think I was telling you about what one of my other coaches, Blair Singer. I'm sure you know of Blair,
Oh,
part of
yes.
the Rich Dad Poor Dad group. And he
Yes.
was I'll tell you this great story about John Maxwell. And he had John on
Oh,
this
wow.
conversation that they were talking about. And Blair, if you've ever been exposed to him, Blair is one of the most profound teachers that I've ever met in my life. I mean, if he has a way of understanding exactly what you need, and then he has the hook or the solution or the vehicle that you can get on in order to get to the solution. And Blair, I think, exposed just a little bit of a weakness that he had, and he said to John, and if Blair is listening, which I'm sure he's going way out of his way to listen to my podcast. However, what I love that when he related this story to us, he just said, he told John, he said, look what do I do? Because I feel like I'm giving everybody away my information. And if I give it all away, that they won't need me anymore.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
apparently John said to him, listen, your job is not to be the smartest person, the best person, but your job is to create more leaders and leaders that are better than you are.
Yeah.
And I just thought that, if you now I'm going to flip it
Hmm.
because Blair was the person that changed my mindset and got me to think about things differently in life and got me to start to think about maybe being a better entrepreneur, better person, and so on. But just the fact of you thought about how his influence on me made me the better leader, made me, and I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect anyway, any way, shape, or form, but he made me better at it. And that's exactly what John was talking about. And maybe that's why it resonated with me so much.
Yeah, I think I don't know what year it was, but it was really impressed upon me to train not only myself but my team how to build a bench, because I knew if they started to build a bench that they were a secure leader. If they
Yeah.
were trying to hold on to their position
Yeah.
and really kind of like putting a stake in the ground, like this is my turf, I knew that they couldn't be growing with my company.
Yeah.
So it was grow or go at that point, and to really think about, okay, this is how you empower people. This is how you equip people. Because the kind of the verbiage that I hear, Chris, from people is like, I don't know how to delegate. And really what it means is no, you don't know how to empower because first and foremost, you don't believe in people.
Mm-hmm.
So let's really go back to the root of that and start believing in people and really set them up for success. And we call that the equipment process. And what does that look like, right? You do it. or excuse me, I do it, you do it, I do it, and you watch me. You do it, and I watch you. Now you do it. So going through that whole process is really the proper delegation, so to speak. It's that empowerment. And I think it's just education, teaching people how to really empower people, but also how more so, Chris, this is my challenge. This is what I see with leaders is they just don't believe in people. Because I think
Yeah.
it's down to they maybe don't believe in themselves deep
Bingo.
down. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that's even in that last step that you did where you go out and do it. And
Yeah.
the trick is I leave you alone.
Yeah.
And because I don't micromanage you, I
Right.
let you make a mistake.
Yes.
Because that's the
Please make
biggest thing.
mistakes.
People,
Yep.
like I've
Please.
seen so many leaders that they give somebody instruction, but then all they do is they just micromanage it to get it to perfect, rather than letting that person make the mistake, coaching them through it, and then it's better the next time and better the next time. Because if you micromanage everybody, then all you're doing is you're just saying, okay, well, you can do it, but then I'll fix it later, so I don't have to work as hard as I need to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. They're
that was
really
powerful.
handing it off to them, but not really equipping them properly. And so that's the challenge. It's even as simple as, let's talk about shampooing. Okay, that's a
Yeah.
good example. But it's like really, you have to give them a shampoo every once in a while and show them how it really should feel. Because the reason why it's substandard now is because there's no accountability. There's no
Yeah.
proper inspection. You just abdicated the shampoo and now they shampoo crappy,
Yeah. And what you permit, you promote, right? So it's if you
Yep.
let that happen, there it goes. Yeah, and I want to bring to I'm pissed off right now, and you know why I'm pissed off? Because we're just about done our time here, and
I know. I could hang out with you for days.
well, I promise you, I want to have part two on this. Can we agree on this?
I
Because I've
agree.
got to
I
about
will do
three
that.
questions that I have on here, and I haven't got to all the rest of the stuff that I want to get into. So can we have an agreement right now? I
I'd love
want to
to.
have you back as soon as I can, and I want to do this one more time so I can continue part two. Is that good?
I'd love to. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I
As long as
wanted
you agree to being back on our
I
podcast.
will. I swear to God, I'll be there for you. But I want to end up with this one right here. Do you have to be a perfect leader to be a leadership coach?
So if you're talking about a leadership coach in a business or even just a leadership coach that I am, no, you have to be
Yeah.
a growing leader, period. And so are you investing in yourself? I actually have put together for my team, for myself, for everyone that I work with, Chris, I have had them, I'm working with everyone I coach. I even coach a lot of nonprofits, by the way. And so what I do is I have them put together a yearly intentional growth plan. It's pulling teeth to get people to actually do it.
Yeah.
I take my DISC assessment, my emotional intelligence assessment, and I'll sit down with it for the year and say, okay, these are my 3 strengths. These are my 3 blind spots that I want to work on in 2025. This is what I need to do to grow past those. It's hard to get people to do that, but if they're doing that, you'll notice. And it's so crazy because everyone that I coach, I'm always like, oh, I'm going through that right now. And they love that because the transparency and the rawness is real. And I think that's why people like me as a coach, because I'm in the trenches with them. And I'll say, you know what, I kind of screwed up there. And I'll say, when you figure it out, let me know, because I don't know the answer to.
Yeah.
And I think they really enjoy that transparency too. So I don't have like a pad answer all the time too for them.
100%. And maybe I just was doing that from a selfish reason because, I call myself a coach too. I always go by Coach Chris Baran, but the reality is I'm not the perfect coach.
No.
But I do know I've had, I know the things that you should do. I don't always do them. And I'm growing, as you said, as I do them and getting better at them. But I remember I was talking to someone the other day and I was talking about that. And they said, you know that this is a little factoid that's always stuck with me, a fountain of useless information. But Muhammad Ali, who was, supposedly the greatest boxer of all time, his coach was Angelo Dundee. Angelo Dundee never set foot in the ring as a boxer.
Right.
He wasn't the perfect
Right.
boxer,
Right.
but he knew how to coach perfect boxers. Or, and again, that word perfect, I think, is such a blown out word in our industry,
Yeah. Right.
because that's my problem is I'm working on,
Recovering.
I'm a recovering perfectionist. We always talk about disabling stories, and my disabling story was I'm a perfectionist and it costs me time, energy, money. But the
Mm,
reality is, so I had to create new stories. And out of that, I mean, I got it from that. I don't have to be an Angelo Dundee. I don't have to be a perfect boxer. I just have to be a good coach at what I know how to coach on, and
yeah.
go from there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and there's a difference between coaching and consulting too.
yeah, yeah,
And because, of course, as coaches, sometimes we'll drop into, okay, I'm consulting right now. I'm just going to share with you what we're doing. But then, really, and that's why I've invested so much money in becoming the coach that I am now, of really going through certification after certification. And it's really the art of being curious, the art of asking questions, the art of listening. And that makes you a better leader at the same time, the more you
yeah,
invest in becoming a better coach. So when I coach teams, Chris, it's usually how to be a better coach.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
exactly it.
Yeah.
I would be remiss if as I said, I want you back on here as fast as I can so I can continue this conversation. But I want to just leave you with this: is that somebody wants to get you as a coach. They want to get a hold of you, and if they're not listening, they can't read right above your left shoulder there what it says Next Level Salon Leadership. But how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah. Super simple. Just go to my website. It's tinablack.net. All my information's on that website and they can get a hold of me anytime.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Tina, I just want to say thank you. I don't know who had more fun. I think I had more fun. If we had my scale is like this. I'm my scale of my fun scale is like way over here. So I just want to thank you for not only that,
Yeah.
but your intelligence, your zest for life, and the knowledge that you have that you impart all the time. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Chris. The feelings mutual. We love interviewing you. I love watching you on social media and all the things that you're doing, and more so just how you're giving back to the industry. This is so imperative. More people
Yeah.
need to do what we're doing, really, right? So,
Bingo.
thank you.
Absolutely. You can
Yeah.
tell the era I came from when, it's me in the old folks home going, bingo. It's
Bingo. Yeah.
bingo. Well, I think this was a bingo for
I
me.
love
And
it.
I agree with your husband. This has been a ministry for you. And thank you for bringing
Yeah.
that ministry to us.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris.
All the best. Thanks again for watching this episode. And if you liked what you heard, remember to smash that like or follow button, depending on your preferred platform. And make sure to share it with anyone you know that might be a fellow Headcase. Headcases is produced by Cut Action Media, with Marjorie Phillips doing the planning parts, Lee Baran on the video bits, and Adrian Taverner mixing the audio jazz.